And many of us have seen it or we experienced it. Maybe we were the perpetrators, maybe we were the victims, but are we seen it as a child? We've seen abuse, we've seen domestic violence, and it is something that is not okay. But it is something that, just like molestation, that gets overlooked when it comes to the Black community. And, Black women suffer at a higher rate more than any other women from domestic violence and death from domestic violence relationships. So at the end of the day, and I don't want to just make this one-sided, but as a man, you should not, if you feel like you have to put your hands on a woman, then you should get out of that situation. If you feel like you're in a situation where a woman is driving you crazy to the point where you have to put your hands on her, just leave her. If you're somebody that cannot control your emotions, if you're somebody that feels like how you deal with your problems is to use your hands, then maybe you shouldn't be with that person, and maybe you should get more help. Maybe there's something else festering inside of you where you need to look at. You need to look in the mirror and look at yourself, because we can't throw this thing on frustration. The only time I see fit for a man to actually like put his hands on a woman is if he's like literally trying to defend himself. Like if a woman is like beating the hell out of you and you just sitting there letting her pummel you and punch you in the face, that's one thing. But if you're just arguing and it's just words, or you just have a disagreement, or you don't see eye to eye, there is no reason to put your goddamn hands on a woman. There is no excuse. You understand? At all. There's no excuse at all to do that. You know what I mean? There's tools and there's different things that you can do to get out of that situation, so you don't find yourself uh uh, uh locked up with a domestic violence charge, which looks horrible, because I, for one, have been locked up, and you get no respect for coming up in there. And they say, man, what you up in here for? Man, I put my hands on my girl. You don't get no respect for that. You ain't gonna get no brownie points for that. I suggest you hide that paperwork. You try to hide your paperwork. But Lord forbid, I don't want that to happen to anyone. I don't want brothers and sisters. I don't want nobody to go to jail for domestic violence. I don't want nobody to put their hands on anyone. If you're even if it's the other way around, if you're in a situation where you're with this woman and you love her and she always pops you upside your head, or like a disagreement turns physical, she's probably not the right woman for you. Sorry to tell you that. And for you sisters, that's the same for you. Now, let me be who I really am, Thawahgabar. Okay? Let me just say this. We all make mistakes. Okay? But making the same mistake over and over again, that's a problem. That's an issue that needs to be dealt with. So the moral of the story is keep your damn hands to yourself. Okay? There's other ways, and I know we don't get that in the Black community, but there are other ways to what's the word I'm looking for, to deal, that's not the word I was looking for, but to deal with whatever the frustration is that leads you to feel that way. Maybe you were a child that seen it yourself. Maybe you were a child that grew up in a dysfunctional home, like many Black people have. And many Black people have went on to be successful people, make good choices, and stay away out of trouble and not make bad decisions, even though they grew up in the hood, even though when you walked outside, you seen a dead body, even though you grew up in a crack house. Many brothers and sisters still were able to elevate themselves and put themselves in a good position to not get in trouble like that anymore, or not find themselves in that domestic violence type situation. And the flip side to that, this is the flip side, and this is biblical. And since I'm paraphrasing, I'm not going to say the scripture, but this is biblical. A wicked man ends up with a wicked woman. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times what happens is You have situations in relationships where people, I'm a little hot. I had a little drink, y'all. You have situations where people, you know, they're not getting along in a relationship, and he's saying, man, she like this, man, I can't be with her, man, she do this all the time, blah blah blah, to his friends, his family. She's saying the same thing to her friends and her family, pointing out all the negative traits about him. In reality, they are together because they're just like one another. In reality, they hard-headed. They don't want to listen to nobody. They don't want to take constructive criticism. Can't nobody tell them anything. They think they're always right. And then so these type of people typically end up together. So you're only hearing one side, but you don't know what the other person done to them. And you'll find out that they're both monsters. They're both raging animals in the house, can't get along because they're so alike. Hey.